Hello and welcome to the News at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, 400 jobs are saved at the bus manufacturer Alexander Dennis, but for how long?
Your mental health and everything, it's been a struggle. It really has.
But if you are made redundant, what support is there for workers? We'll be finding out also tonight. A man accused of spying for China has the charges against him dropped just before a trial was due to begin. We'll have all the latest sport with Lewis. What do you have for us tonight?
That's some of the main talking points from a fascinating first few weeks of the Premiership season, including a Happy Hearts camp after taking 13 points from 15.
And we'll get you the very latest on a scandal rocking the stone skimming championships. I'm Graham Stewart. Welcome to the News at 7. Jobs have been saved in Falkirk and Larbert. For the time being, the bus manufacturer Alexander Dennis has said it will keep its sites open in Scotland, but only after the Scottish Government stepped in. It's pledged £4 million to help pay staff 6 months' wages on furlough while the company gets back up and running. The company said it was moving its production to Yorkshire, but now has enough orders in the pipeline to keep operating here. Well, here's how workers reacted to the news today.
Very difficult. You don't know if it's gone. Some boys have had offers of jobs and had to turn down because you feel a sense of loyalty and you just want it to be successful.
Your mental health and everything, it's been a struggle. It really has. For a while there, for months, we were worried about a job, but with that announcement it's been pretty good. And we've got a bit of a future again, hopefully for a long time. I've only another 5 years to go, but it's good for the young ones as well. They're going to have a job.
Well, there has already been a round of redundancies at the company, with highly skilled workers having to retrain. And for the 400 jobs now on furlough, there's no guarantee the company will remain in Scotland in the future. Separately today, politicians, local figures and the GMB union have written to the Scottish Government to demand it directly awards a contract to the struggling shipyard Ferguson's to build a new CalMac ferry. The company has also struggled with orders, laying off 1,200 jobs in the space of 18 months recently. So what support is there for skilled workers who lose their jobs? And why are some manufacturing industries struggling? Here's Ros Foy from the Scottish Trades Union Congress.
I'm very confident. I think this was exactly the right package that had to be put in place. It's all about pace when you're talking about major industrial transitions, and that's what this is. This is a company that can and should be succeeding well into the future. Our research shows that we should, as we move forward into electric bus manufacturing, we should be ambitious. We should be looking to have 3,000 jobs here in Scotland that are about bus manufacturing going forward. So it was absolutely right to make this investment to keep those skilled workers in work.
Whether it's the buses or whether it's the calls we're hearing today for the government to award a contract to the Ferguson shipyards for a CalMac ferry, why is it that certain industries, some might say, are getting special treatment?
Well, it's really, really important to our economy to have a balanced economy and to have good, high-quality, high-skilled jobs for Scotland. We want to be a world-leading manufacturing nation. It's always been an important part of our economy, and it's really crucial to have that in your economic mix. So jobs like that, as we move forward and we're trying to create, clean, green jobs for the future, jobs that are about shipbuilding, that are about manufacturing key infrastructure for our energy. These are really important jobs that government can and should be investing in. If we're putting public money into providing, ships, boats, that sort of thing, we should be making sure that that economic benefit goes to Scottish workers.
What about these industries where lots of people have already lost their jobs, often maybe from one particular town? How on earth do you retrain them for new employment?
Well, that's where actually getting organised and being part of a union can be really important, because if you're part of a union, That union can help you look at economic trends, look at, having a future for your site and the skills that you have, but they can also look at routes for you to retrain. Now, we're going through some massive transitions just now to a green economy, to a more digital economy. The way people are shopping is changing. A whole lot of industries are going to have to change, and workers need to be central to that. Their voice needs to be heard, their concerns need to be heard. We need to make sure that we lever in investment into reskilling, retraining into the right areas and give people proper career pathways and transition pathways.
Do you believe that's possible for
forward.
people who say maybe are middle-aged and have been in the same career all their life? They're kind of at a disadvantage, aren't they, compared with people who are just out of school or university, aren't they?
Well, not at all. Actually, these people bring real experience. They bring solid industry experience sometimes. Sometimes, if you listen to the workers themselves, they will know exactly what the skills of the future that they need are if their industries to become sustainable and transferable. And we need to start listening to those workers, and we need to provide proper support to them. It should be about lifelong learning and about worker-led learning agendas. And we do a lot of work with government to try and take that piece forward.
Well, Ros, thanks so much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.
That was Ros Foyer from the Scottish Trades Union Congress speaking to me earlier. Now, a parliamentary researcher from Edinburgh who was arrested 2 years ago on suspicion of spying for China has had the charges against him dropped. He was due to go on trial with another man in 3 weeks. 30-year-old Christopher Cash said it had been a nightmare. The Home Office said it was disappointing the pair will not face trial. Our Home Affairs correspondent David Cowan has the details.
More than 2 years after his arrest, over a year since he was charged under the Official Secrets Act, a month before he was due to stand trial, Christopher Cash arrived at court to hear that the case against him was being dropped. The Crown Prosecution Service said its evidence against the two men accused of betraying their country no longer met the required threshold to go before a jury. Mr. Cash and his co-accused Christopher Berry were cleared.
Well, I'm relieved that justice has been served today. The last 2.5 years have been a nightmare for me and my family. From being arrested in March 2023, my liberty has been severely curtailed, and I've had to deal with the anxiety of facing such a serious charge.
Mr. Cash's lawyer, Henry Blaxland KC, told the court, lest there be any whispering campaign, that he was fortunate that the prosecution ultimately elected not to proceed. We need to make it clear that our client is entirely innocent and should never have been arrested, let alone prosecuted. The 30-year-old from Edinburgh was a parliamentary researcher and director of the China Research Group, which raised awareness of UK-China relations among politicians. He had close links with senior Tory MPs. Along with Mr. Berry, he was charged under the Official Secrets Act of 1911 with conducting espionage for China. Grave accusations now abandoned.
I am a very unhappy speaker with what's happened. The fact that for 2 years, and it's taken till today for somebody to withdraw this case, that is not good or good enough.
Many members will be as extremely disappointed as I am that there will now not be a trial. I want to be clear that the government remains gravely concerned about the threat of Chinese espionage.
The questions and controversy over the case will continue, but outside court, Christopher Cash thanked his family, friends and lawyers for their support.
Now that my name has been cleared, I can start to move on and rebuild my life. I sincerely hope that lessons are learned from this sorry episode. I wouldn't wish any other innocent person to have to go through this.
The Foreign Office has raised the case with the Chinese embassy in London. Last year, China dismissed the charges against the men as a fabricated, malicious slander. David Cowan reporting Scotland.
Well, thanks for joining us on tonight's news at 7. More coming up, including...
When she was well, she was radiant, beautiful and outgoing, but to see somebody suffer mental health and poor mental health was a challenge.
We look at ways to treat depression after former Scotland international Scott Hastings speaks about the death of his wife.
This week, low pressure dominates conditions with the jet stream feeding in several systems. That means the weather will be up and down. I'll have all the details later.
Now, Scotland has a proud reputation for gaming. We've produced some of the best sellers out there over the years, including Lemmings, Minecraft and Grand Theft Auto. And tomorrow, we'll see the industry's world leaders arriving in Edinburgh for a summit. Brian Baglow, who's the founder of the Scottish Games Network, has been telling me more.
So the big event that's coming to Edinburgh this week is DICE Europe. It's the European arm of the big DICE conference, which is one of the leading games conferences that normally takes place in North America. And it's for very senior leaders across the games industry, really to try and chart the course of the games sector in the years ahead.
So it's great that, all the big hitters are going to be at this conference, but what is Scotland's contribution to the games industry? We know that in the past it's come up with some big name titles, and they still exist, but what about the future?
Well, Scotland's very well positioned to take advantage of the ever-increasing evolution of the games industry. We've got a far more diverse and robust sector than we've ever had, with companies doing everything from games for education, healthcare, even social inclusion and politics, all the way through to the big blockbuster titles that everybody knows about. So we're really well positioned, and Scotland is actually one of the first parts of the UK to be working on a national strategy for video games. That's what I should be doing before I get dragged away to come and talk and, be glamorous on television. But it's going to totally change the way that games are understood and supported across every element of government in Scotland.
So that means you've got buy-in from government then, because there's often a danger that politicians can be out of touch with younger generations.
Well, we're seeing this, we put it this way: games are Scotland's secret weapon. As we say, globally, the sector's worth $250 billion a year. That's a Dr. Evil amount of money.
So what support would you like to see in order to secure the future of the games industry in Scotland?
It's very simple. We need to see games as having value outside that enormous consumer market. We need to understand that games have a role to play in every part of our digital future.
A lot of these big name titles are made by huge companies with a lot of financial backing. But can individuals, or say groups of people just coming out of university, can they create their own games still?
Absolutely. Arguably it's faster, easier and cheaper to make games now than it ever has been. And you can get them out in front of a global audience, very, very easily, whether you're working on mobile, PC or even console. So, indie games, it's the smaller micro studios and even individuals and part-time game makers are out there and making some really, really fantastic content across the whole of Scotland. So, the future is really games can be for everyone. Whoever has the ability, whoever can get the tools, can make and release a game as easily as some of the world's biggest corporations.
Brian Baglow speaking to me. Now let's get a roundup of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland. An investigation's been launched after possible human remains were found in Loch Lomond. Officers, a police van and forensics remained at the scene on Monday. Police say inquiries are ongoing. A report into Airbnb-style lets in the Highlands say individual areas should be left to make decisions on any possible restrictions. The report was looking at how to deal with housing shortages. Hundreds of victims of a jailed Aberdeen City Council fraudster have shared more than £300,000 recovered after his arrest. Michael Patterson embezzled more than £1 million from residents' accounts. For more information on all of these stories, you can scan the QR code on your screen right now. That will take you to the BBC Scotland News app, where there's more for you, including the mum from Troon who's made history by competing in the world's toughest triathlon. Now, just over a year ago, the former Scotland rugby international Scott Hastings was left devastated when his wife Jenny took her life. She went missing while in the water at Wardie Bay in Edinburgh. She'd lived with depression for 20 years, but both believed in the healing power of exercise. And Scott's been telling us he goes every week to swim in Wardie Bay and to remember Jenny.
She was fit and active and wanted people to enjoy life. When she was well, she was radiant, beautiful and outgoing, but to see somebody suffer mental health and poor mental health was a challenge. The fact that we swim where she went for her final swim, it's still very reflective and resonant. And I'm not disguising the fact that it's tough sometimes. It's been good for me to sort of almost carry on that legacy that she so enjoyed her swimming and exercise.
Now, the number of people living with depression is hard to quantify, but the annual Scottish Health Survey suggests 13% of us are living with 2 or more symptoms of the condition. So what help can be given to people who are suffering? Well, I've been asking clinical psychologist Dr. Fraser Smith.
I think the first thing is that individual gets the best one-to-one therapy that they possibly can with a trained individual. But a lot of the practical advice comes from, doing things that avoid things such as like rumination. People with really high levels of depression have a lot of rumination. That's why things like exercise, socialising, getting out of the house is really positive, really helpful, because it kind of gets that person to separate a little bit from that rumination. There's also things around ensuring high quality sleep, making sure that their diet is on point as well. Nutritional factors and sleep factors are really congruent toward ensuring that depression is managed.
Yeah, when people advise, why don't you go for a walk, it can sound maybe quite trite or simplistic, but there are actually real benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. The research says that time and time again. I mean, not only does it increase things like those kind of feel-good hormones and ensuring that our chemical imbalances are in place when we go out for a walk or when we're outside. But again, one of the things that happens a lot with depression is somebody can become very isolated and insular, and actually being outside, moving our bodies in whatever capacity can be the opposite to that and really help with those symptoms of depression.
Yeah, because you don't want people to be unnecessarily on medication or antidepressants, but sometimes that is necessary though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, everybody is very different, and everybody's experiences on antidepressant medication, particularly SSRIs, is different. But it can be very beneficial to make sure that people have a bit of a kind of foundational baseline to manage the chemical imbalances that come from depression. So again, everybody is different, but it can be very effective as a kind of baseline treatment for people.
Are most people okay talking about it now? I guess if you've got it really bad, then yeah, you might discuss it. It might be so obvious to your friends and family. But if it's something like, your partner passes away, are people as good at saying, look, I'm actually struggling with this?
I think the tide is turning quite a bit, particularly in our kind of Scottish culture, is taking some time as opposed to other cultures. But listen, talking about mental health in any capacity, particularly when really distressing things happen, is very, very challenging, and we've got to make sure that we're talking to the right people. But I do think there has been a change in culture over these past few years where people are a little bit more understanding and more accommodating, where people can actually talk about those experiences.
How difficult is it to actually cure depression though? Is it one of those things that we've not really quite kind of got to the bottom of?
I think there's an element of that. I mean, the word cure is very different and difficult because obviously everybody is different, is subjective in their experiences, but I think we are much closer toward what the causes of depression actually are and what the main sources of treatment are. Again, really ensuring that we're getting the very best one-to-one therapy. That can be very beneficial medication, but then the other practical interventions can be useful too. But often there are bigger societal implications that are just harder to treat. I think there's a long way to go still though, of course.
All right, thanks so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
And if you're suffering distress or despair and need support, including urgent support, a list of organisations that can help is available, and information of where to find them is on your screen now. Still to come, we have the weather with Christopher, and we'll tell you all about the cheating scandal that's rocked the world of stone skimming. But first, it's the sports with Lewis.
And I'm just as much on the edge of my seat as everyone else to find out about that scandal. Good evening there. Yes, well, we're only a few games into the new Premiership season, but it's already proving to be a fascinating feast of football with quite a few unusual twists and turns too. And these managers are heavily involved in some of the main talking points. Let's take a look at the league table then and look at that brilliant start for Hearts in contrast with that Scottish Cup winners, Aberdeen down there at the bottom, yet to score a goal in 4 Premiership matches. Well, earlier I had a chat with football writer Stephen McGowan and we started on the subject of Happy Hearts.
It has been a very impressive start. It's amazing to think back to 12 months ago next weekend when, after 8 straight wins, Hearts sacked the former manager Stephen Naismith. We found Neil Critchley after that. At that point, I think people couldn't see much hope when he finished in the bottom 6, but what an improvement. Tony Bloom has obviously set his sights on disrupting Celtic and Rangers, and they're 9 points ahead of Rangers already. So they have a really good chance of doing just that. And it's up to Rangers to try and prove they can hold that deficit back.
Yeah, you say there's a real possibility they can do it. Stephen, just how significant could it be if they were able to finish inside the top 2?
You know, I think we talk about so many things in Scottish football, things that could improve it, like league reconstruction or summer football or what have you. I think nothing would improve the game more than a sustained challenge from outside Glasgow. I think it's what people would like to see to improve the level of competitiveness in the Scottish Premiership. It would be invigorating. So I think there's always a concern that maybe just a little bit early in this Hearts project for that to happen, but they've made a good solid start.
It's the total flip opposite of that for Aberdeen right now, isn't it? When you think how well they started last season and where they sit now. How do you see things for Jimmy Tilleen's side at the moment?
I think these are worrying times for Aberdeen. I mean, Jimmy Tilleen's side I think they've only won 5 of the last 31 games. They have lost 18 of those league games, and I think that's relegation form. I don't think there's any great desire on the part of directors to act. I think Aberdeen see Jimmy Tilleen as a bit of a 3-year project. So I think they will give him more time, but I think that form is unsustainable in the long term, and he really needs to start getting some wins shortly.
Yeah, now let's touch on Rangers and Celtic, and we'll start with Rangers because it seems like the media are being told that the club are willing to stick with Russell Martin for the time being, and that's certainly not going down well amongst the supporters. So it's a very similar sort of thing that we're talking about, isn't it? This has been grumbling on for a few weeks now.
Rangers fans have made their feelings pretty clear. There was a lot of vitriol coming down from the stands on Saturday when the Hearts fans chanted "sacked" in the morning. They barely got to the end of the chorus where Rangers fans were joining in. Russell Martin has been given some assurances, but the patience can't be endless. They have to win. That's the culture at Rangers, and I think it has to happen shortly for Russell Martin's long-term security.
It's very much the culture at Rangers. It's also the culture at Celtic, isn't it? Where winning is the demand and the expectation. They're doing that at the moment, Celtic, but it's still not pleasing a lot of the supporters. Do you think it's going to take a positive European campaign when the Europa League gets up and running to calm that down? Or how do you see the fans becoming happy with the scenario at Celtic at the moment?
I think it will be interesting to see what happens and how far it holds if they go on and win 3 or 4 or 5 games. And if, as you say, they deliver some success in Europe. Positive signs from Sebastian Tunecti, the new signing yesterday, so that always helps. But equally, I think there's always a danger on the horizon for the Celtic board when it comes to the financial results coming in possibly at the end of this month, because the signs are that they will deliver record profits and record figures. And if that's the case, it might just pour more paraffin on the fire.
Absolutely. Well, Stephen McGowan, there's so much that we have discussed, so much we still could. It'll keep you busy, plenty for you to write about. Thank you very much for joining me today. And before I go, some athletics news, because there will be 3 Scots in the men's 1500 metres final at the World Championships in Tokyo, as Josh Kerr, Jake Whiteman and Neil Gourley all qualified. Defending champion Kerr finished second in his semi-final. Whiteman was 1 place back. Gourley squeezed through in 6th place in the second semi. The final is on Wednesday. Well, you can read and see much more from the World Athletics Championships on the BBC Sport website, including Sweden's Armand Duplantis securing his 14th world record in the pole vault. Quite incredible and well worth watching the clip, Graham. What an achievement from Duplantis.
Now, you reckon that the world of Scottish football is quite exciting.
Oh, absolutely.
I have got something to talk
You're going up the ante, aren't you?
I am going up the ante, absolutely, because we are talking about the world of stone skimming, because there has been some controversy at the World Stone Skimming Championships, which have been held on the island of Easdale in Argyll. They've had to raise the alarm on cheats who've been suspiciously using smooth and circular stones to compete with. Well, I spoke to the organiser, known as the Tossmaster, that is true, Dr. Kyle Matthews, who told me how the culprits tried to get round the rules.
We had a fantastic day last Saturday. There was a lot of excitement. It was the biggest event ever. And we were delighted with how the event had gone. And it was really the next day that murmurings and kind of rumours started to come to my ears that there perhaps had been a couple of competitors who had been tampering with their stones. And then it was really the skimmers themselves, the stone skimming community, started contacting me to let me know that this had happened, really concerned for the integrity of the event itself, particularly as it is growing each year. And then really on receiving that information, we took a little bit of time and then contacted the individuals in question who, to give them full credit, held their hands up immediately, admitted to what had occurred and graciously accepted without question the disciplinary action to disqualify them from the competition.
And how exactly
So
are they
all in all,
cheating? What are the techniques?
the rules of the event, which require you to use a stone from the island, and it has to be under 3 inches in diameter. And it must be a naturally formed stone from the island, so one that hasn't been altered in any way. And what the competitors in question had done, they'd actually taken larger stones than the 3 inches in diameter, and they'd, with a machine, they'd ground down the stone to fit perfectly that 3-inch diameter. So the stones themselves were just that little bit too perfectly round.
Let's focus on the positives then. What is it that's attracting so many people to stone skimming, do you think?
Well, stone skimming is just one of those wonderful things in life that many of us have experienced, mostly often with our parents or family members. And often many of us immediately, it brings up nostalgic, positive memories from childhood. So many competitors find out about this championship and just can't wait to get to Easdale, the home of stone skimming, a beautiful island in the Hebrides. And of course, there is that allure of actually perhaps being a world champion. And the guys and ladies who take part, very talented. But this is such a positive event. It is run completely by volunteers in the local community. All of the profits from the event go to charities in the local area. And it is a real beating lifeline for this small community.
Dr. Kyle Matthews, thanks so much.
No problem.
Who knew the world of stone skimming could be so controversial? Hopefully no surprises in the weather forecast, Christopher.
No, but it will be up and down. Low pressure, very much with us this week. However, some brilliant photos as ever from our weather watchers. Thanks for those. Bit cloudy at times across the Highlands. Some sunshine towards eastern Scotland earlier on, and certainly around the north coast as well. Let me show you about those low pressure systems though, because we've got the jet stream running to the south of us and acting like a conveyor belt. It will deliver them to our shores through the course of this week. So up and down weather really, but there will be windows of opportunity in between the wind, the rain and the rather unsettled fare. And tomorrow is one such window. It's a much drier and brighter day than today. Still a few showers down towards the far southwest, in towards the Rins of Galloway there. But elsewhere, it's a dry and fine start to Tuesday. You'll notice a few more showers towards the far north and in towards the Northern Isles coming in on those west-northwesterly winds. Temperatures to start the day 9 to 12 Celsius. Now, as we go through the course of the day tomorrow, we hold on to a lot of dry and bright weather. Still a feed of showers in the south, perhaps drifting in towards the central lowlands at times, and again across parts of the north of the mainland. And then tomorrow evening, initially dry and clear, but you can see cloud and rain begins to work in. So overnight tomorrow night turning pretty wet because we've got one of those low pressure systems arriving, and that is with us on Wednesday, giving a rather cloudy and soggy start to the day with that band of rain continuing to track northwards. But come late morning, early afternoon, petering out, leaving us rather drizzly really at times, something brighter in towards the south, but blustery for all, indicated by the black arrows there, so quite a gusty day. And then on Thursday, we've got rain now across parts of the far north, the Northern Isles, in towards the Highlands and Islands, turning windy around the northwest coast. Elsewhere, though, something drier and brighter. So again, Thursday, a window of opportunity for some, not all. And then into Friday and the weekend, well, it's a bit uncertain at the moment. Will the high pressure win out or will the low pressure win out? Keep tuned. This is Friday, though. You can see we've got showery outbreaks of rain across the north, but drier and brighter conditions elsewhere. Still reasonably warm south of the border. So you can see on the outlook it is a bit up and down, but two windows of opportunity, Tuesday and Thursday, probably the driest of the next few days. That's the forecast for now.
The conveyor belt of weather. It does feel a bit like that, doesn't it? Just Christopher, thank you very much indeed. That is all for tonight. Plenty more news online. And Laura McKeever will be here tomorrow night at 7. From all of us on the team, enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye for now.